Tonight, a once missing Saskatoon mother remains in U.S. police custody, now accused of faking her own death and her son's too. Also, as the CBC investigation continues, former Saskatoon private Christian school students alleged being coerced into working on political campaigns. Plus, a historic settlement for the Beardies in Okamasis Cree Nation.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, August 8th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The high-profile Saskatoon woman who disappeared with her son late last month is now accused of faking their deaths. Dawn Walker is facing criminal charges both in Canada and in the United States. American authorities allege Walker carried out an elaborate plan and presented handwritten notes to try to prove it. Yasmin Ghonea brings us the latest.
Dawn Walker and her son were presumed missing and even feared dead for 2 weeks. Her truck and purse were found near the South Saskatchewan River, and for days, emergency crews and volunteers scoured the area by land, air, and water. Now, U.S. authorities who arrested Walker in Oregon on Friday allege she meticulously planned the whole thing. According to prosecutors, as part of an elaborate and well-thought-out plan, the defendant, a Canadian citizen, kidnapped her child and after faking her death and that of her son, fled to the United States.
In things such as cell phone records.
Here in Canada, Walker is charged with child abduction in breach of a custody order and public mischief.
As the criminal investigation progresses, there may be further charges that Ms. Walker will face as a result.
U.S. authorities have charged Walker with a felony and misdemeanor related to using a false identity to enter the country. If found guilty, Walker would be jailed for a minimum of 2 years for the felony and up to 6 months for the misdemeanor. Court documents show a handwritten checklist that lawyers say Walker wrote on how to stage her death and disappearance. They include things like dyeing her hair, throwing her phone in the water, ditching her car, and covering a distinct tattoo on her hand. An affidavit from a Homeland Security agent alleges Walker stole the identity of her friend and her friend's son to open up bank accounts, buy a vehicle, and cross the border. There is a growing movement in Saskatchewan and beyond calling on people to stand with Dawn.
I think we have to look at the wider system at play here and how that impacted her taking such drastic action.
Indigenous leaders have suggested Walker's actions were related to a history of domestic abuse.
Any previous allegations made by Dawn Walker were thoroughly investigated, and no charges resulted as a result of that.
Walker's son is now back in Saskatoon with his legal guardian. Walker is still being detained in Oregon. She made her first court appearance Monday. Yasmin Ghonea, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Former students of a private Christian academy in Saskatoon are making more allegations about how they were treated. It comes after a CBC News investigation revealed stories of violent discipline, exorcisms, and solitary confinement at the school. Now, these students say they were pressured into working on political campaigns as well. Jesse Anton has that story.
I certainly have a lot of anger about that.
Stephanie Hutchinson is just one of many former Christian Centre Academy students who tell CBC News they were coerced into working on political campaigns, both during school hours and church services. Students say they had to hand out political flyers and attend protests opposed to abortion and same-sex marriage.
Students who probably are pretty clueless about what they're doing and why they're doing it, because of people who have authority over those students and use that authority, abuse that authority.
Students say they worked on the campaigns of several politicians, including Saskatoon Wanuskewin MP Maurice Velicott, who confirms it happened. Saskatoon's longest-serving mayor, Don Atchison, and sitting Saskatoon City Councillor, Randy Donauer, who's been a longtime member of the church adjacent to the private school. Donauer has confirmed he was endorsed by the pastor in his 2010 bid for Saskatoon City Council, but says he did not use church resources for the campaign, though Donauer did admit he helped organize volunteers to campaign for other politicians. Students were recruited even during school hours to deliver campaign material, Donauer wrote in an email to CBC News, also confirming the pastor gave political endorsements during church services. He added it was inappropriate. A church should not take partisan political stands. Donauer said the church's political activism stopped several years ago, noting, quote, the new leadership team has strived to create a church where everyone is welcome, regardless of politics or background. The current leadership at what's now called Legacy Christian Academy and Mile 2 Church have declined repeated interview requests. Experts say there are no black and white regulations in Saskatchewan's independent school legislation when it comes to political involvement, but that there could be charity status implications if that happens today.
I think you might talk about whether that crosses the charity line or not. It probably does, but it certainly, I think, crosses a line of just kind of the spirit of what a school is about.
The Federal Income Tax Act bans charities, including some private schools, from supporting or opposing directly or indirectly any political parties or candidates. That includes using resources such as volunteers and office supplies. Doing so today could mean an audit from the Canada Revenue Agency. Jessie Anton, CBC News, Regina.
The opposition NDP is calling on the Education Minister to condemn the abuse alleged by former students of Christian Centre Academy. It wants funding to the school frozen pending an investigation. The opposition says since the allegations broke last week, Education Minister Dustin Duncan has not answered questions. It says the government should not wait for a criminal investigation to be complete before acting. NDP human rights critic Mira Conway says criminality should not be the bar for protecting students in classrooms in the province. The opposition says the government has been too silent on the allegations made by former students.
Allegations of exorcisms and political coercion won't be investigated by the police, but in no way should they be occurring in Saskatchewan schools. That is fully within the purview of the Education Minister. This criminal investigation may take up to a year to finish. Failing to act in the meantime raises more concerns around the leadership of this government.
CBC has made multiple requests to speak with Minister Duncan going back to last week. He has not been made available for an interview with the media. As travel starts to pick up, more and more Iranian Canadians are facing problems when traveling outside Canada, particularly when it comes to heading to the United States. So what's the issue? Pratush Dayal has more on one family's struggle.
It's like we're not Canadians. It's like our life, our suffering is not important for anyone.
Amr Abul Hassani sold his house in Saskatoon after his US-based employer asked him to relocate to North Carolina. When he went to move in January, his family was stopped at the Calgary airport for extra screening. Now, he's worried about losing his job. The extra screening was due to Abul Hassani's conscription with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, more than a decade ago. IRGC was tagged as a terrorist organization in 2019 by the Trump administration.
If they assign you to an organization, you cannot refuse. 1 in every 3 Iranians will be assigned to IRGC because this is one of the biggest branches of the military. This is 128 families.
Abul Hassani says many families across Canada are facing the same problem. He says many have reached out to members of parliament and the Prime Minister's office, but to no avail. Many Iranian Canadians and those traveling with them continue to be stopped and detained while crossing into other countries. They often receive a boarding pass marked with 4S, which stands for Secondary Security Screening Selection. More than a dozen Iranian Canadians I spoke with say this enhanced screening means long, invasive interviews. There is also an extensive search of their belongings, cell phones, and social media. Many are separated from their family and others have lost foreign work opportunities. Both Canada Border Services Agency and Global Affairs Canada say that they are aware of the problem, but they say they can't intervene with American jurisdiction. Those affected say it is very much a Canadian problem, but there is lack of political will.
I know that they have contacted Canadian government and have asked them to cooperate with them to find a solution. And our government, unfortunately, has denied that. They have said that at this point, they don't have any interest in solving this problem. This is very sad. Why should I be facing this? Am I not Canadian enough?
Abul Hassani wants Canada to clear his and other conscripts' names. He says the Prime Minister should act when he says a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The Federal Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations was back in Saskatchewan today. Mark Miller was at Beardy's and Okamas's Cree Nation to announce a settlement agreement. The resolution addresses a long-standing grievance. That is, that Canada failed to provide promised payments to chiefs and headmen under Treaty 6 between 1885 and 1951. They were denied after being deemed a part of the Northwest Resistance. In June, the First Nation received a settlement of just over $4.1 million. Miller says it was important to be there in person.
Relationships are built on trust. Relationships are built on personal interactions. You can't do that on Zoom. And something as historical as this needs to be done in person, in ceremony.
It will make a huge impact on our nation as to our well-being, let's just say. One of the main thing is our housing and our infrastructure, right? And not only that is education, right? We try to assist in every way we can, so it's going to play a huge factor in our future.
Beardy's and Okamas's Cree Nation is one of the largest First Nations in Saskatchewan, with a population of just over 3,000 members. Well, the skies were alive in the province last night. Gunjan Sinha captured this time-lapse of the Aurora Borealis from his balcony in Saskatoon. And the colorful light was a bit of a surprise. Solar wind hit the earth with a bit more intensity than predicted. Will conditions be right for another round tonight? Ethan will have the answer and your forecast when we come back. As the end of summer nears, monarch butterflies will start migrating from many parts of Canada all the way to Mexico. They were added to the international list of endangered species last month. One of the key reasons for their decline is the loss of their habitat. But, as Colleen Jones reports, one Nova Scotia man is on a mission to save a few of them.
Peter Vanderkluet has learned a lot about the monarch butterfly.
Oh, see the two dots on the hind wings?
I did.
That tells you it's a male. The females don't have those dots. Yeah, I love see the compound eye.
Monarchs might be plentiful now in the family's backyard garden, but a few years ago, noticing the declining population here, he became concerned. But how many of us move from concerned to citizen scientist? Peter did.
This is probably a couple days from turning into one of the pupae.
And from the pupae,
it becomes the butterfly.
He protects the monarch's eggs, one tiny egg at a time.
That little dot right there is an egg.
He heads to the mowed areas by the local Rails to Trails path. He looks for fallen leaves holding the tiny eggs that would be easy pickings for the predators, spiders, ants, and birds.
So when you went out to the area that was mowed, you were looking for things
those.
That small?
Yeah. It's like 2 by 2 millimeters or something.
He has become the monarch's protector here in his own backyard, taking the eggs into his house for them to go through their various stages.
You can see the little tip of the curl kind of below the eyes there. Yeah. It's a proboscis that's curled up, and when they protrude. It's really cool. I kind of got into it because, I like them for one thing, and they migrate, the fascination of it, just the uniqueness of the species.
He takes notes to document the numbers since he began this project 3 years ago.
300 in the wild sightings. It's a lot of caterpillars, 470 when I count it. The chrysalis where they came.
Is he making a difference? He likes to think so. He's also growing and transplanting milkweed, not just here in his garden, but in this new pollinator garden that volunteers have planted on Rails to Trails. When it's in the caterpillar stage, milkweed is the key ingredient for the Monarch. Milkweed has been wiped out through the years because of pesticides, urban development, and mowing. But Peter, whose father Sam was a highly regarded botanist at Acadia University, keeps growing more. In North America, the monarchs are endangered, but Peter Vanderkluet, on his watch, in his backyard, he's doing his best to make a difference.
Oh, that's sweet. It flew right onto your finger.
It did.
Flew right onto your finger.
Wow. Colleen Jones, CBC News, Wolfville.
Flew right on.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln, making back to busy easy.
And weather specialist Ethan Williams joins me now. It might be a little too hot to be digging around looking for monarch eggs today.
Yeah, it's been that really dry heat today, Sam. We aren't seeing humidity levels quite where they were the last time it was this warm, but that dry heat is not great for the monarchs, not great for the squirrels either, who are taking a little break in Susan's backyard. Taking just a quick break in the shade before he found some water. Thankfully, that story has a happy ending, and of course, a hydrated squirrel is a happy squirrel, and it is still quite warm across the province at this hour. We're looking at temperatures into the 30-degree range, but quite a drop-off as we head into the northern half of the province. And right now, across south and central Cornac, still at 35. You were the national hotspot today, getting close to 38. 30s all around, or pretty much, as we head through the rest of the region. Now, through the next couple of days, we are going to be seeing a bit of a cool down. This low-pressure system in the upper atmosphere reinforced by a low at the surface. Some cooler temperatures and some rain, but over the next couple of days, as we head especially into the end of the work week, this ridge builds back in and temperatures will be close to 30 degrees in no time. Now, keep in mind that this is the low pressure system that we're talking about that is causing all of the showery weather we've been seeing in the north, and it has this associated cold front with it, triggering off some showers this afternoon through the north of the province as well. That slides southeastward tonight, and we could see showers and thunderstorms through central and northern Saskatchewan. For the south, you will notice a pretty big temperature drop off as we go into tomorrow, 10 degrees compared to daytime highs today. High pressure keeps us clear and keeps those cooler temperatures in place. They'll be around average for this time of year. Won't be too cool, but keeps the moisture away as well. Through the night tonight, we are looking for amounts between around 2 and 7 millimeters of rain in the north of the province. And we will keep in mind that wind gusts have been quite breezy as well. They're still gusting up between 40 and 50 kilometers in many portions of south and central Saskatchewan, and getting a bit gustier as you head north as that low moves through now. Now, through the night tonight, they will begin to diminish, and tomorrow, it's really the kind of geographical eastern half of the province that's going to be seeing the breeziest conditions, maybe up to around 40 kilometers an hour. And then as we head into Wednesday, those shift into the southwest of the province. Now, as we mentioned just before the commercial break, nice aurora to see last night, but it looks like it'll be fairly short-lived. That KP index is a little bit lower tonight, and the areas where you could see some aurora, especially in the northern portions of the province, you're likely going to be seeing that cloud and rain tonight, so it won't be as visible. Now, over the next few days, though, that KP index possibly increasing, and we do have some sunny days and sunny, or not sunny nights, I guess clear nights where you could be seeing those that aurora. And of course, in Regina, temperatures are going to be increasing as we head through to the end of the week. Some showers possible for the weekend as well. In Saskatoon, things will remain fairly dry. Temperatures again getting right around 30 degrees there Thursday, Friday. Humidex values should stay back though. And Sam, those overnight lows around 20 degrees. You probably won't even need a jacket if you're going out even after the sun goes down.
No kidding. And with the Saskatoon X opening up, it's a pretty darn nice forecast.
Yeah, there's a lot of events and a lot of great weather ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
We'll be back with more news after the break. Hockey Canada is now explaining an apparent discrepancy in the number of incidents of alleged abuse, harassment, and discrimination it's dealt with. The organization's president provided the House of Commons committee with one number the day after the government agency provided another. Janice McGregor has the latest.
Since 2018, national sport organizations have been required as a condition for their federal funding to report any incidents of abuse, discrimination, or harassment that could compromise their projects or their programming. And so, when an official from Sport Canada appeared before the Commons Heritage Committee on July 26, he was asked how many incidents like this had been reported by Hockey Canada since this new requirement was put in place 4 years ago. His answer? 8. When Hockey Canada's president, Scott Smith, testified the next day on July 27th, he was grilled about allegations first reported by TSN that players from 2 different national junior teams, the 2003 squad and the 2018 version, had participated in separate group sexual assaults, now under investigation by police in Halifax and London, Ontario. When he was asked about these investigations, Smith said this.
The 2003 incident, there has now been 4 reports to Sport Canada. 2018, 2003, and then there were 2 additional reports that are not sexual assault or sexual misconduct.
Hear that? He said 4 reports, not 8. CBC News contacted Hockey Canada to explain this discrepancy. Its spokesperson, Jeremy Knight, said that Smith had been asked about ongoing investigations, and there are apparently 4 cases where the investigations remain open. But if Sport Canada's database includes 8 reports from Hockey Canada in total, that means, based on Smith's testimony, that there were 4 cases reported in 2019 and 2020 where the investigations have concluded or been closed without finding anything. Because all these reports are confidential, we don't know in any of these cases what happened, who was involved, or whether anyone was held accountable. Sport Canada provided CBC News with a year-by-year breakdown of all the incidents reported by Hockey Canada, and when it did so, it also revealed an additional 9th case that the department says was reported on July 28th. That was the day after Hockey Canada officials testified before the committee. A spokesperson for Sport Minister Pascal Saint-Onge said this 9th incident isn't a formal case, but someone had contacted Hockey Canada to request information about the process for reporting the possible mistreatment of an athlete from the Northwest Territories. Hockey Canada advised this person to contact the police and also gave this person information about the new third-party mechanism that the government has put in place for investigating an allegation like this. But we don't know anything more about what, if anything, happened next. Janice McGregor, CBC News, Ottawa.
And Ethan is back with one last look at tonight's weather.
And after this hot day in Regina, we are still looking at 19 degrees by the time we roll around midnight with those clear skies. North winds still pretty gusty. Those will drop off after midnight. We get to 8 a.m., mostly sunny conditions and 16. Those winds fairly light out of the north at around 20 kilometers an hour. Then we head into the afternoon. Those will pick up a little bit more. 22 is close to where we will round out our daytime high. A much cooler day compared to today in Regina and in Saskatoon as well, where we will see clear conditions and 16 degrees at midnight. Winds will be a little less gusty as we head through the night tonight. Tomorrow morning, 15 degrees, sunny conditions, and by the time the noon hour rolls around, sun sticks around. We're at 21. That's almost at the daytime high as well, and winds will be a little less breezy than they are in Regina. But all around, Sam, looks like a pretty nice evening and day ahead tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn, Reed, and Ethan will be back with more local news and weather tonight at 11. Thank you for watching and have a great night.